Pay attention to Rosalind Crawford, 21 years old, standing beside her familiar Toyota 4Runner outside the Washington Ridge apartment complex on this cold January evening in 2007. Her boyfriend, Joseph Gottlieb, 23, leans against the driver's side door, his posture relaxed as they talk and laugh together in the parking lot. They are planning nothing more complex than a quick dinner date before heading to a friend's party later that night. Simple plans for a college couple deeply in love and looking toward a future together. This moment of shared, uncomplicated joy would be their last. What they could not possibly know was that they had less than 12 hours left to live. Watching them from nearby shadows was Brian Stapleton, 25, a local criminal with dead eyes and a criminal record, along with 3 other men. They were waiting for the perfect moment to strike, having decided that this young couple standing innocently by their vehicle would become victims of pure evil. What began in the minds of these 4 men as a simple robbery would quickly escalate. This is the story of 48 hours that would shake Knoxville, Tennessee to its core, and expose a darkness so profound that even seasoned investigators would struggle to comprehend the extent of the evil this college couple tried to bury. Rosalind Crawford entered this world in April 1985 as what her mother, Diana Crawford, would always call a miracle baby. Doctors had told Diana she might never have children, making Rosalind's arrival alongside her older brother Chase even more precious to the family. Those who knew Rosalind described a young woman who seemed to radiate light wherever she went. Her striking blue eyes captured attention immediately, but it was her genuine warmth that made people remember her. Standing 5 feet 8 inches and a half inches tall with a natural grace, she possessed a spirit that uplifted everyone around her. Rosalind was less than a year away from graduating from the University of Tennessee, her future stretching before her with endless possibility. She confided everything to her mother, Diana, sharing her dreams, fears, and the everyday moments that make up a full life. Meanwhile, Joseph Gottlieb arrived in September 1983 to parents who thought their child-raising days were behind them, bringing unexpected joy and renewed energy to the household. Joseph possessed an artist's soul, excelling at baseball before a post-graduation injury shattered his professional dreams. Instead of spiraling into bitterness, he channeled his dedication into becoming a skilled craftsman known for reliability and quality work. He was described as a fiercely loyal friend with a terrific smile. Yet, the words that haunted his mother most came just 2 weeks before that cold January night. Joseph called her with news, "Mom, I sold my motorcycle." When she asked why he gave up the bike he loved, Joseph explained with heartbreaking clarity, "Because I want a life. I've got a reason to live now with Rosalind." He had finally found love and was ready to leave behind anything dangerous, valuing his future, only to have that future brutally stolen. Joseph and Rosalind met through mutual friends in 2006, and their relationship quickly blossomed with the sweet awkwardness characteristic of early romance. They were still in those beginning stages, learning each other's quirks and building the foundation of something that felt increasingly serious. Joseph had recently introduced Rosalind to his parents, a significant step that signaled his serious intentions. He had confided to his father that he was falling in love with her, a fact the older man had already recognized just by watching how his son's face lit up when Rosalind's name came up. The 2 sets of parents had not yet met, that happy milestone still waiting in their future. Instead of that happy occasion, on January 6, 2007, Rosalind and Joseph had planned a simple evening. Rosalind arrived at her friend Brian's apartment to get ready for their dinner date, and Joseph would pick her up. They'd grab a meal together, then head to a friend's party later that night. Simple plans, normal plans, the kind of plans young people make every weekend across America. Around 9 p.m., Joseph pulled up to the apartment complex in his truck. He parked and walked over to Rosalind's 4Runner where they sat together talking, probably discussing where to eat or what time they needed to be at the party. What they didn't realize, what they couldn't possibly know, was that 4 men watched them from nearby shadows. From that moment, their fate was sealed. The bubble of normalcy burst just after 9 p.m. Out of the shadows of the Washington Ridge complex emerged Brian Stapleton, flanked by his accomplices, Paul C. Drew, Edward Medellin, and Jamie Rippey. The victims, caught completely off guard, had no time to react. Guns were drawn, voices barked commands, and the situation instantly spiraled from an innocent date night into a high-stakes, violent robbery. Stapleton and his crew quickly forced both Rosalind and Joseph into the back seat of Rosalind's Toyota 4Runner, taking the vehicle, Joseph's truck keys, and all their personal belongings. The four men drove their captives away from the bustling college area and straight to 2316 Chipman Street, a known lair in a notorious part of town. There they were joined by Maria Underwood, Stapleton's girlfriend, making a total of 5 perpetrators now holding the young couple captive. The initial intent may have been simple carjacking and robbery, but upon arrival at the dilapidated house, the crime took a sharp, terrifying turn. The forced entry into the house established the shift from simple theft to something far more sinister. This was no longer about a car or money. This was about power, sadism, and a calculated escalation of violence that would consume the next 2 days and expose the horrific truth this college couple tried to bury. As the night wore on and the clock ticked past midnight, the initial lack of concern among Rosalind and Joseph's friends began to curdle into worry. Their dinner date had been missed, and they never showed up at the party. The disappearance was so complete, so silent, that confusion quickly gave way to a cold dread. Rosalind's mother, Diana Crawford, was contacted first, and she immediately felt the terrible certainty of disaster. She began frantically calling her daughter's phone, praying for a busy signal or any sign of a simple misunderstanding. Joseph's parents were notified soon after, finding themselves thrown back into the immediate, heart-stopping worry of having a child missing. The families swiftly contacted the police, but they were met with the harsh reality of procedure. Rosalind and Joseph were adults. Without immediate evidence of foul play, official search efforts were slow to mobilize. The families, however, could not wait. They mobilized their own resources, tracing the last known location of Rosalind's phone. The first physical confirmation that something was terribly wrong came with the discovery of Joseph's abandoned truck. Found completely out of place in a dark, empty area, the truck was quickly processed by investigators. The sight of the vehicle, coupled with the continued silence from the couple, solidified the family's deepest fear and confirmed for the police that this was no simple runaway case. The search for the young couple was now officially a missing persons investigation, with a terrifying confirmation of foul play. The desperate search by the families was met with the most devastating news imaginable. An anonymous tip led investigators to a secluded area near the railroad tracks, far from the apartment complex. There, the horrific discovery was made: the lifeless body of Joseph Gottlieb. The family's worst fears were instantly, brutally confirmed. Now, the frantic, terrifying search focused solely on Rosalind Crawford. With time running out, Rosalind's family doubled down, using technology to track her phone to the notorious Cherry Street area. Not long after, her Toyota 4Runner was found. But it was completely transformed. It was mud-covered, seemingly wiped clean of any personal trace, suggesting a calculated effort to destroy evidence. Inside, investigators found items that didn't belong to Rosalind: a cheap cigarette pack and a piece of paper, an envelope bearing an address. Police processed the scene meticulously. The envelope led them straight to 2316 Chipman Street, and the name on the papers confirmed their suspect, Brian Stapleton. The discovery of Joseph's body, the abandoned car, and the vital link found within it collapsed the missing persons case into a full-blown homicide investigation. The location of the Chipman Street house now became the epicenter of the entire horrifying case. The envelope found near the abandoned 4Runner led investigators directly to the horrific nexus of the crime: 2316 Chipman Street. It was a dilapidated house, inconspicuous in its decay, but it held the key to Rosalind Crawford's fate. As police descended on the address, they found their main suspect, Brian Stapleton, and the search of the property began. The meticulous police work uncovered a staggering amount of evidence confirming the evil that had occurred within those walls. The most agonizing discovery was made in a large household garbage bin on the property. Hidden inside, bound and sealed within 5 separate trash bags, was the body of Rosalind Crawford. The sheer dehumanization of the act spoke volumes about the perpetrator's intent to erase her existence. Elsewhere in the house, police recovered items that told a silent, devastating story: ripped photographs of the couple, Joseph Gottlieb's driver's license, and multiple shell casings. These physical artifacts confirmed the brutal transition from robbery to protracted torture and murder. In custody, Brian Stapleton launched into a flurry of lies, delivering 5 different contradictory confessions in quick succession as he desperately tried to minimize his involvement. But the physical evidence was unequivocal. DNA analysis quickly confirmed that both Stapleton and his accomplice, Paul C. Drew, had sexually assaulted Rosalind, linking them directly to the ultimate atrocity. With this physical proof and the envelope connecting Stapleton to the vehicle, investigators were able to quickly track down the remaining suspects: Edward Medellin, Jamie Rippey, and Stapleton's girlfriend, Maria Underwood. The arrests brought the 48-hour nightmare to an end, exposing the calculated, depraved truth this college couple had been unable to bury. The focus of the case now shifted from search and recovery to understanding the unimaginable torment endured by Rosalind and Joseph in their final hours. The forensic evidence gathered at the Chipman Street house and near the railroad tracks painted a picture of calculated, sustained horror over the course of nearly 2 days. Joseph Gottlieb's ordeal was one of prolonged torture. Before his execution, he was severely beaten, enduring sexual violence at the hands of his captors. Finally, he was taken to the remote railroad tracks, shot, and in a final cold act of desecration, his body was set on fire in a crude attempt to destroy evidence. Rosalind Crawford's experience was equally terrifying and tragically drawn out. She was held captive for several agonizing hours, subjected to sustained physical and sexual assault by multiple perpetrators. In a moment of sheer desperation and terror, Rosalind was forced to make a harrowing phone call to her father, pleading with him for her life, a call her father would carry with him until his last breath. As the hours passed and the sun rose and set, the criminals began to focus on covering their tracks. They used chemical agents, including bleach and water, on Rosalind's body in a cynical attempt to destroy the DNA evidence. In her final excruciating moments, Rosalind was bound tightly, stuffed into 5 separate plastic garbage bags, and placed inside a trash bin. It was there, confined and abandoned, that she slowly died from confined space asphyxiation. These acts were not the result of a crime gone wrong, but a horrific display of calculated sadism. The torture, the execution, the concealment in a household garbage can, it all exposed the depth of depravity the perpetrators were capable of. For the investigators and the families, the forensic details were a stark, agonizing reminder of the absolute evil Joseph and Rosalind faced, and the senseless cruelty that stole their futures. The pursuit of justice was a protracted, grueling process, forcing the families of Rosalind Crawford and Joseph Gottlieb to relive every horrific detail during the trials. Yet, the evidence of calculated cruelty was overwhelming, leading to the convictions of all 5 individuals involved. The ringleader, Brian Stapleton, was found guilty and received 2 sentences of death for the heinous, atrocious, and cruel murders involving torture. His accomplice, Paul C. Drew, was sentenced to life without parole plus 100 years, while Edward Medellin received 2 life sentences. Jamie Rippey was given a life sentence plus 90 years, and even Stapleton's girlfriend, Maria Underwood, who facilitated the crime, was sentenced to 35 years. The severe sentences reflected the jury's absolute condemnation of the perpetrators' actions. For the families, the verdicts offered not closure, but a form of weary finality. They faced the unimaginable reality of a future without their children. Joseph's parents often recalled his final haunting words, that he had found his reason to live with Rosalind, a heartbreaking contrast to the violent end he met just weeks later. The 2 sets of parents, once strangers, were bound by an indelible grief, finding solace only in shared memory and mutual support. The house on Chipman Street stands as a silent reminder of humanity's capacity for darkness. But the memories of Rosalind and Joseph remind us of the light extinguished too soon, a young woman with beautiful blue eyes about to graduate, and a loyal young man who sold his motorcycle because he finally had a reason to live. Their families continue to carry forward their legacies, ensuring that Rosalind Crawford and Joseph Gottlieb are remembered not for how they died, but for how they lived, with joy, with hope, and with love. The ultimate question remains: how do we reconcile such pure evil with our understanding of humanity? And how do we honor the victims by celebrating the beauty of their lives and demanding a world where such darkness cannot flourish?